This topic is starting to become a weekly discussion because the Minnesota Vikings defense has just been that good. And it's a topic that is noteworthy and discussion worthy because right now their defense is BA and it is a MFer stuffer. And someone told me the other day that MFer means my friend. So that's what I'm going with. The Minnesota Vikings are a my friend stuffer. And they've proven that through the first 3 weeks of the regular season. When is the last time I've looked this forward to watching the Minnesota Vikings defense play? This might be the first time in my life where I am literally looking forward to watching the Minnesota Vikings defense put together a performance, because this defense has become unrecognizable. It's so damn good. And we're going to discuss their best plays and the things that they've done throughout the regular season. First, let's talk about this tweet by Paul Allen, the voice of the Vikings and 9 to noon host on KFan. He sent this out at halftime during the game. He said, "Wow, what a first half by Vikings. Stroud had gone 266 attempts in a row, sans a pick, and Grugler Hill gets him first pass. Sam Darnold was amazing in that game and outplayed C.J. Stroud, who had gone 266 passes in a row without a pick. C.J. Stroud was Rookie of the Year last year, or at least I think he was. He certainly deserved it if he wasn't. He took the Houston Texans, that many expected to be a bottom feeder in the league, and led them to a division title, 10-7, and a playoff appearance. That's who the Minnesota Vikings were facing on Sunday, and the Minnesota Vikings made him look like a guy who struggled throughout his entire NFL career. The Chicago Bears couldn't do anything against C.J. Stroud. The week before, C.J. Stroud had another phenomenal week. And now he comes into Minnesota with Stephon Diggs and Nico Collins. They were missing their starting running back and their backup running back, so that's a big deal. But the Minnesota Vikings locked him down.
Shotgun. Stroud throws. That ball tipped and intercepted. The Vikings force the turnover. Grugler Hill, the former Texan, comes away with it. Off the tip ball. We talked about Grenard, the impact he could have.
Right in the middle, that's Harrison Phillips, number 97. Named captain this year for the first time. Signed a new contract to stay here in Minnesota. Talked with his defense coordinator, Brian Flores, at practice on Friday, and he singled him out as someone who's greatly improved since last season. And he gets a paw on the ball, and the first interception of the game, the first takeaway.
You could call that interception, Luck, but I don't care what you call it. It deflected off of Harrison Phillips' hands, went right to the linebacker, Hill, but it's also not just luck either, because Harrison Phillips needed to have active hands. And when you have active hands, sometimes things like that happen. And it was his first pass attempt into the game, and it worked out in the Minnesota Vikings' favor. You know, if you're not active, you give yourself no chance at an interception. So he put himself in a position to make a play. He got a good luck deflection, and it went right to the Minnesota Vikings defense. That's what they've been doing all season long. And Minnesota Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell has recognized it as so.
Like a lot of guys on our defense, but as a whole, just felt like, you know, the pre-snap and post-snap was pretty effective all day long. Flo called a phenomenal game. The scheme, understanding of what we're trying to get done by our players on the field, the tackling, keeping the chunks off the tape for the most part. They got some kind of looser plays there in the second half, but so proud of our guys.
The Minnesota Vikings defense has been absolutely sensational this year. even insane, I would call it. And what's been fun about the Vikings defense is it's been so good. It's getting recognized nationally by the ESPN guys, by the guys that break this tape down for a living on NFL Network. And it's been fun to watch those clips on social media. And if you don't have a Twitter or X, I suggest you looking that up, because they take the all 22 and they show the Minnesota Vikings defense in this kind of defense. And then they show how they quickly transfer into a different kind of defense while confusing the quarterback up front and in the secondary. So opposing quarterbacks have no clue what kind of defensive set the Minnesota Vikings are in. And that's why C.J. Stroud and Brock Purdy and Daniel Jones, that's 3 weeks in a row where opposing quarterbacks could do nothing on the Minnesota Vikings. Nothing. And let's just read some more stats for you. The Minnesota Vikings defense this season, 10 points per game allowed this year, second fewest in the league. 310.7 yards per game is 14th. 5.3 sacks per game is first in the NFL. They are getting pressure this season while not sending the house. The only time they could get pressure last year is if they sent 8 guys at the quarterback, which left the corners exposed. But now they got Stephon Gilmore and Shaq Griffin in the secondary, and they're older players, so hopefully they can hold up throughout the course of the regular season so they don't have to rely on their younger guys that aren't as experienced or talented. But this Minnesota Vikings defense with Brian Flores has been stunning. Stephon Gilmore described the Vikings defense in this way. This comes from Matthew Collar on Twitter. He says, unselfish. A lot of guys that love playing with each other. We treat each other. We communicate. We trust each other. We communicate. We play hard. We tackle. We create turnovers. It's fun playing with a lot of guys who don't care who makes the play. That's fun. And you can tell that the Minnesota Vikings defense with Cam Bynum's Michael Jackson moonwalk on the sidelines after the interception or in the end zone, you can tell it's a group of guys having fun. And one of the highlights of the Minnesota Vikings win versus the Houston Texans was on this possession. And someone took it, combined it on Twitter, and posted it, and it is hilarious. So enjoy this right here.
With Laramie Tunsil, their left tackle, he's had 4 false starts in the last 2 weeks, so the crowd noise is going to be a factor.
A few moments later.
False start. Offense, number 78. Illegal formation.
Make it 3.
Offense, number 78.
Texans with 22 penalties this year. Stroud, 3rd and 14. There we go. Tunsil did it again. Laramie Tunsil did it again. What in the...
False start. Offense, number 78.
Yes.
It's a 5-yard penalty. It's still 3rd down. Illegal formation. Offense, number 78.
He did it again.
This penalty's declined.
Wow.
It's 4th down.
He did it again.
Illegal formation.
Say 78.
Offense, number 78 was not on the line of scrimmage.
That is 5 penalties called against Laramie Tunsil.
Offense, number 78.
78, there it is.
It's 3rd down.
Holy cow, with this left tackle for the Houston Texans, all they do is commit penalties. First and foremost, he should go up to Laramie Tunsil, and just to make sure he's okay. Not to be like, dog, all these penalties today or anything. Just, are you okay? Is everything okay? Last time I saw you, you were shutting everybody down. But now, Laramie Tunsil had 6 penalties called against him today, and 5 were accepted. I mean, Pete and I have called games together for a long time. Can't say we've ever seen that.
The penalties attributed to Laramie Tunsil can be caused by multiple things. The U.S. Bank Stadium crowd was legit. They were loud. People that were at the game were posting videos and talking about how loud they were. So the Minnesota Vikings have a legitimate home field advantage this season. But it's also attributed to the Minnesota Vikings' ability to get after the quarterback. Because those penalties were false starts, and those penalties were penalties where he wasn't quite to the line of scrimmage that the referees have, put a lot of focus and effort into this season. And the reason why you false start and the reason why you aren't to the line of scrimmage is so that you can get a massive advantage against the defensive line, so that you get an extra step in front of them so they can't get to your quarterback. That's why the penalties were happening. And Laremy Tunsil isn't this scrub who, they just picked up off the practice squad and has bounced around for a while. He just signed a 3-year, $75 million contract extension in March of 2023. And he has that C for captain on his jersey. So he is highly respected in the Houston Texans locker room. And that's what the Minnesota Vikings did to him. That's what the U.S. Bank Stadium crowd did to Laremy Tunsil. And here's the final statistic for you. There's only one team over the last 20 years to have 5+ sacks in each of their first 3 games of the season. The 2024 Minnesota Vikings.
No regard for human life.
Mic drop moment. And they did this against great teams. C.J. Stroud, Brock Purdy. Now they got Malik Willis or Jordan Love. Then they got Aaron Rodgers. And then they've got Will Levis and Trevor Lawrence and teams like that on the road, but teams like that. And in the NFL, the good thing is that defense travels. Of course, crowd noise affects the ability from the opposing offense to communicate clearly and easily, but defense travels. So this Minnesota Vikings defense should be able to travel on the road and have success later on in the season, just like they did at home. So bravo to B-Flow and the Minnesota Vikings defense.